Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Storytelling Journey, where voices rise, visions expand, and stories come alive. Today's episode is a masterclass in contrast, creativity, and courage. My guest is someone who walks two very different paths, one paved with firewalls and encryptions, and the other with verses and melodies. By day, he's a chief information security officer, safeguarding digital landscapes, and by night, he's a poet and a songwriter, crafting soulful stanzas that speak to the human experience. Today's intro was brought to us by Michael himself. Michael and his story are a powerful reminder that we don't have to choose between our professional roles and our creative passions. We can do both: analytical and artistic, strategic and soulful. So, whether you're a tech leader, a creative spirit, or someone navigating your own dual path, this episode is going to be for you. I'm super excited to dive into today's conversation. Michael, how you doing? Welcome to the storytelling journey.
Well, thank you for much for having me. When you invited me, and particularly when you told me what the subject was going to be, I was, to be honest, a little stymied because I'm like, okay, so how do I square my role as a CISO with my role as a poet and songwriter? And I actually think there is a intersection, and that intersection is in order to do my job as a CISO, I have to translate the landscape of attacking and vulnerabilities to the business, and I have to do that in a way that they understand. So I have to coach it in maybe even an emotional term, which is what I'm also doing as a songwriter. So there is some crossover because I have to take these sort of complex ideas, maybe attach some emotion or at least a way to induce them to look at securing the enterprise. And to be honest, I wish I would have thought of this when I was an acting CISO because it would have been interesting to see what the response would have been to that song, because one of the things I'm trying to get across in that song is that it's everyone's job to secure, to do security. It's not just the cybersecurity office's role to do that. So I just found that interesting. But to your point, also, I think just in general, regardless of what our role is in business, we do have a story to tell. You say be heard, be seen, be heard, remembered. I phrase it slightly different, say be seen, be heard, and be valued. Now they're basically sort of the same thing, except value to me, I mean, being remembered is obviously also being valued. But I don't know why that's so important for me, but that sense of being valued is important. You may or may not be able to hear that through the song. Um, but the yeah, I just think everyone has a story to tell, and I think song is certainly a way to do that.
Fantastic. So, why don't we take a moment here and welcome everyone who is joining us live. Feel free. This is a interactive conversation. We invite those of you who have questions for Mike to drop those questions in the comments. And, if we have time, we'll even bring people up on stage if they're open to joining the conversation on stage. So, our friend Jay, who is my co-host and joins us, is running late, and from time to time, life gets in the way. He may or may not join us, but this is live. The show goes on. If we miss Jay, we'll catch him up on a great conversation. My name is Americo. I'm a coach and producer of live stream and on-demand experiences, and I kind of fell into this passion as I was pursuing my next role. And hearing and sharing the stage and hearing other people's stories is just so fulfilling. And I'm excited I know you and I have spoken before in different themed shows. This one really resonates with many of our membership, because storytelling is something we can all do. We all have a story to share, a story to tell, and we don't realize it. We overthink about going live. We overthink about our content strategy. And sometimes all you need to do is be yourself and share with people what's going on, what you're working on, what you've overcome. And sometimes those vulnerabilities are going to open up conversations and opportunities that you would never imagine. All right.
Towards that end, my songwriting is relatively recent. I've been writing poetry for quite a long time, but somewhere along the line, someone had said, "Mike, why don't you consider putting them, your poems to music?" And actually, my very first Suno song was actually directly from a poem. So I literally cut and pasted the poem right into Suno, and then tried to figure out what the genre and all those things related to doing work in Suno. And so my very first song was actually a poem. And then some number of them have remained poems. And then I've done sort of uh, a conversion from poems to stanzas and verses and choruses and so on. And then I've actually come back and done a few directly from a poem into a song again, and I have a few of those posted on my Substack. Um, so it's kind of interesting because I actually wrote a Substack article on the what is going on between a poem and a song. By and large, the poem is having you use a bit of a different part of your brain where you are supplying the images and the feeling, internally, as opposed to a song, which is really, even just the way it's structured sometimes, you are providing, some more of that feeling by music. So I sort of came up with the conclusion that I think in today's world, because we are sort of into the maybe a faster paced or social media, that maybe we lean a little towards songs. And in fact, I think my poll kind of proved that out. It was kind of neck and neck for a little bit, but I think I asked people in because I had written both the poem and the song, and I said, which do you find sort of more impactful? And I think they ended up with the song.
So that is a great stage that you've set for the question that I wanted to kick today's conversation with. And you may have answered partially the question, but I'm really curious. How did this journey begin? Because I'm sure after an illustrious career in tech, you didn't just say, you know what, I'm going to give poetry and songwriting a jab. This is typically something that people bring and carry with them for years. They kind of grow into it, and it becomes, for some, a pet project, something that they talk about manifesting one day, and it's just become, something people write down, and then all of a sudden, you're ready to jump on stage and share that artistic piece, those pieces of writing, your poetry and your songwriting. Where did it begin? I'd love to hear the grassroots story.
Well, in all vulnerability, a lot of my poems were actually written out of a healing journey out of trauma, my early ones. And so they tend to have a bit of a darker feel. But as life progressed, I really wanted to, and you'll see in both my poetry and my songs, I want to shift from a more of a place of being a victim to being a victor. And so, like I said, I mean, I had been writing poems for probably close to 40 years, but I hadn't really shared them, to your point. In fact, Americo, I had made bit of a mistake because I think there's a time and a place probably for everything. That I had shared when I was a consultant, a cybersecurity consultant. We had downtime. We had bench time, and so I thought that maybe it would be cool to share some of my poetry. Um, Again, I think you have to maybe read the room, and also I think in a workplace, that may or may not be the best time to sort of be vulnerable. And so that didn't go over very well. So actually, in during COVID, I had the chance. I was actually on it was actually a technical Discord. It was, I don't know if you know who Lex Fridman is, but he's kind of a personality on YouTube that his background is in AI and from MIT. But he had a Discord, and I don't know exactly why we had formed a poetry group, but we did form a poetry group on there and actually shared poetry there. So that's kind of really where I started to feel more comfortable sharing my poetry. And then out of that, I've also done a fair amount of LinkedIn Lives here where, because the space was created, for kind of being a safe place and where I thought it was appropriate, I would share some of my poetry. Um, and then, like I said, somewhere I don't remember who introduced me to the idea, but they said, you should share. You should, have you considered putting this to music? And so that's when I started, doing that. The other thing is that I don't really necessarily talk too much about is I also have been in vocals for a number of years. Like I was part of choirs when I was early in grade school and high school. Actually sang in a 400 voice choir. We sang Handel's Messiah. And then later in life, I actually led worship at a church for a few years. So I have a background in vocals. I am not doing the vocals right now on my songs. We'll see if I can screw up the courage to do that. But the other thing, though, is that these tools today actually allow you, including Sono, there are artists that are sort of ideating on Suno, and then they add their own vocals, and if they play an instrument, they'll add their own instrument tracks and then add other tracks. So actually, I think that it's going to be very interesting about the democratization of being able to do music, because in the past you had to have a fair amount of money to be able to get into a studio and then hire musicians, and if you were a songwriter, and then a lot of that was sort of gate kept by the record labels. That's been changing over a number of years here, but so I think it's interesting to see the progression in that regard.
I'm going to ask you a question which I think I know the answer to, simply because of what you did earlier today. You shared the song that kicked off today's show. So I'm going to preface the response with yes to the question I'm about to ask you, but I want you to kind of articulate and maybe add to it. Has your work in cybersecurity influenced your writing in songs? Now, you gave me a sample, which suggests that it does.
Well, that's a very interesting question because I believe, well, there's something underneath all of this, and I hadn't brought that up, so I'm glad you did in the question. I believe that there is a substrate as my, I wouldn't say, I think maybe they existed simultaneously, but integrity and honesty and fact finding, if you will, or getting to the truth are part of both, right? So, my job as a CISO is to examine, what has happened in most cases, or what is happening, and then try to sort out, in the case of an attack or a potential attack, to stop that. Same type of thing in as it relates to some of the subjects that I'm talking about. I want to get to the root or the truth. Like in that song, the truth is that that I need the support of everybody, but particularly the board and the C-suite in order to do that job properly, and that everyone I have to work with the business, and they have to work with me. I have to understand what's important to them so that we can maybe prioritize, uptime, for instance. So resiliency is important to the business, and reputation is important to the business. So I have to put that, I have to put the story in a way that they can understand. And but the underlying of all that is a real focus. And I think one of the things that the cybersecurity people think is really important is integrity. So I can't necessarily. It's not that I can't be flexible in looking at what we need to do to set a priority, but at some point there's a baseline of I need to protect the company's reputation. I need to protect the company or the customer's privacy. And in order to do that, I need the support of everybody, but certainly the board and the C-suite. So the same type of feelings that I'm trying to get across as a poet or a songwriter is I have a strong idea. Like of late, I've been writing about division and then unity as maybe a way forward. And I wrote an article actually on what I call generative discussion, which is where we get together and work towards a solution, having mutual respect for each other's viewpoints, and see if there's, we can find a place to meet in the middle first, and then maybe worry about our disagreements. So all of this is sort of centered around this substrate of truth and kind of getting to what is ultimately I think is important for all of us.
That's great. And I think Al is echoing a very similar sentiment. He's sharing that for him in business, a song equals brand rhythm and a poem is the brand story. So it goes deeper. It's not just a catchy tune. It actually runs deeper, and there's always, most times, if you ask anyone in a organization, there's a story behind every jingle. There's a story behind everything that kind of comes together and becomes part of that organization's ecosystem, culture. And some of us pause to ask and think the story. What's the history? What's the story? What's the storyline and the narrative? And others are completely oblivious. And I know a little bit about you and where you are in your journey today. And I think that's where you're looking to bring value. You talk about be seen, be heard, and bring value. You're working on that today, aren't you?
Yeah, actually, I'm trying to spin up a business called Bespoke Musica, and I have curated songs I've created for people like Americo and Jay. Um, I will post those later in the chat. But I actually did a birthday song for Jay, and I did a song. It's kind of a story of Americo's, kind of Americo's brand. But I've also done that for people like I feel that have had I don't know if you know Christiana, but I've done one for Christiana. I did one for Bambi. I actually did one for Felipe's workplace wellness hour. I did the intro and outro. I did the intro and outro for Jackie, Just Jacks. So I'm doing a number of those just kind of as a passion to lift other people up, and that's, to be honest, that's a passion of mine. Is just why can't we lift each other up? Why can't we help each other? Maybe we don't have to actually put money to that. Maybe there's sort of favor swapping or bartering or something that we can do. But a lot of this has really come out of a passion for what these other folks are doing, particularly when it's dealing with loss, like Christiana and her dealing with the loss of a baby in miscarriage, for instance. or Jackie and trying to help people integrate into society after prison. So those are things that are very near and dear to my heart. Trying to help other humans out. So that's kind of where that's coming from. But at the same time, I'm also looking to maybe see if there's people that are interested in working with me to do that for their business and then monetize it for myself.
So Lynn made it a point to share. You did one for her as well. You put a country twang into a travel persona. I really loved that one. I remember that one vividly.
Well, and that's the other thing that I'm still trying to figure out is okay. I actually really like Lynn's because I and I do this sometimes, by the way, in America without necessarily checking with the individual I'm writing it for. In other words, it's more of a gift, and that's kind of what I did with Lynn's. But I do, and this is where sort of my cybersecurity skills come in. I do a little bit of homework and a little bit of digging, and obviously, the more information they have out there in the public, the deeper I can go. But so I just basically took her story and put it into that song, and of course, I've gotten to know her through Keith Keller's and other places. So I just I do this, and again, I'm hoping that she can use it or other people hear it and contact her for dream vacations.
Hey, well, rest assured, people who I work with who express interest in putting some audio, putting some music to their live stream events, you're the first person I'm going to call because I know
Well,
you're trying to turn this into a value proposition, and I believe that you bring a lot of value. And truth be told, folks, Mike did put a song together for me, and I'm almost embarrassed to say that I haven't used it publicly anywhere. Um, there's a little narrative behind that. My content, I try not to the best of my ability, to toot my own horn and make it about me. And the song was all about me, and I can't thank you enough, Mike, for putting it together. And I will find a home for it.
in transparency, though, Americo, I think sometimes, as much as we give, we also have to be able to receive. And I know that's why it's hard for me. So I get it. But I think sometimes, and again, you have to do what you need to do, but I'm doing this in part because I want to uplift people. And I actually have multiple versions of that song. I don't remember what I sent you, but I have I have sort of a Latin beat version, and then I have more of a actually have a rock version, and I also have sort of somewhere in between. So if you're interested, I can certainly set up a playlist for you, and but that's completely up to you. But I just want, I mean, that's one of the reasons I did these other songs, including Lynn's, was just to uplift and maybe have something that is heard. Maybe they don't play it as part of their show, but maybe they use it promotionally elsewhere, or maybe they do it before they do a speaking engagement, for instance, as sort of an intro. Um, so yeah, I'm just doing it kind of for the sheer joy of lifting someone else up.
All right, let's bring it up. It was going to be a question that I had parked for later on in the conversation, but since we're talking about it now, let's strike it while the iron is hot. Where can people find samplings of your work, or what are you working towards to make those available for people to sample? Do we have you, Mike?
Sorry, I muted myself. The answer to that is twofold. Right now, I have a Suno profile, so that's where probably the majority of my songs are. But I also, and I'll pop this. I have these links ready. I'm gonna pop the answer to that in the chat. This is Bespoke Musica is my Substack for specifically for the songs. Why isn't this going?
So while Mike looks that up, I'm going to see if I can queue up the song again so that those who were joining us late want you to hear what Mike put together. And I used it to kick things off. We kicked off today's show with this particular song. We'll play a little bit of it.
Trust and back us up. Cybersecurity is not optional, it's a must. Give us resources and executive weight. We'll protect everything that's at stake through every audit and compliance fight. Stand your ground with fire in your eyes, independent, but we're unified with the board behind us and the business on our side. We defend this enterprise day and night. The CEO and CISO eye to eye. Strategy built on respect and not pride. Not through control or playing games, but honoring expertise all the same. Working together side by side. Every stakeholder across this floor. Security's not just behind a door. Making partners of every single team. Turning defense into a shared dream. When priorities clash and tension soar, the board support becomes our shield. Never backing down, never gonna yield. In this ever-changing threat landscape, independence and teamwork keeps us safe. Stand your ground with fire in your eyes, independent, but we're unified with the board behind us and the business on our side. We defend this enterprise day and night. Raise the banner, sound the roar. Security's a battle we all fight for. With freedom, trust, and unity. The sea, so God's our legacy.
There you have it, folks. You heard it here, you heard it live, and you'll hear it on replay. And as I always say, the replays live on forever. That was a beautiful song. And I'm thinking out loud here, Mike. There could be an opportunity here for you to sell cyber threats through music. Hey, here's how vulnerable you are. Here's what I came up with by looking up who you are and what you do.
Ooh, wait a minute. Are you saying outing them so that they secure themselves?
Hey, that could be your pitch.
No, in all seriousness, though, I think sometimes SMBs, for instance, I think SMBs are probably underprepared and overrun. To be frank with you, and a song may not be a bad idea. So, I mean, to you know, and I don't know if you've seen, I've written quite a few articles on AI and cybersecurity related to AI. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea to raise awareness of, particularly in the SMB space, as to what they need to look and maybe look at, and maybe ways of doing that via consulting, for instance. So that's absolutely a viable idea.
Hey, listen, people pitch us on LinkedIn all the time. I wake up, you wake up, everyone wakes up to a pitch of some kind. Someone's dropping a free course, someone wants to optimize our YouTube channel. And here's an opportunity. Hey, came up with a song. Tell me what you think. Should we talk? Now, I would front load that with get some general liability, some errors and emissions insurance.
Yep.
Insure yourself to the tilt, because you don't want that Coldplay moment where you're going to out someone for something you found that no one else was supposed to find.
Yeah, I probably would generalize the issue versus outing someone. I did want to mention that I have maybe embarrassed Jay a little bit. I posted the link to his song. That was actually a birthday song that I wrote with for him, but it incorporates his storytelling. So I wanted to post that. I also have posted my Suno profile for those that are interested, and you can get a taste for what I do. And then I posted what I'm calling Bespoke Musica, which is the business I'm trying to spin up to help people, with either jingles. I don't like to call them jingles, but or just it could be events like if you have a bar mitzvah or like I shouldn't tell. I have to be quiet, but it's my wife's birthday tomorrow, and I wrote her birthday song that I'll be playing on the way up to our weekend together in New York.
Fantastic. We'll keep it a secret.
So yes, I hope she doesn't listen to the replay.
All right. So here's a question that I know a lot of people are sitting on the fence. Legal teams are fighting this on behalf of the entertainment and music industry. What are your thoughts? Are you facing resistance and skepticism from either side about this whole creative community, music's being created through Suno versus, music being stolen from professional artists?
It raises a conundrum, but the way I look at it is this is a natural evolution. People said that the drum machines were going to ruin, drummers. People said that the looping would potentially ruin things. I've seen a one-woman show where she plays all the instruments, but she loops them, and she literally, it's a one-woman show. It's incredible. So it's tough because I write the lyrics to my songs. Now some people are doing both the lyrics and the vocals and the music. The only challenge is, and this is what my understanding of what the lawsuit is about, is that that for Suno and there's one other company that they kind of did a YouTube scraping to train the models. Now, there's an argument whether that was fair use or not. That's going to have to be figured out by the courts. There are some folks that have AI, song apps that are claiming that they've done it. They've done it, through paying the artist for their thing. But the thing about Suno is it's not cutting and pasting tracks. It's actually trained the AI. It's very similar to saying, well, if I go out and scan the internet and then feed it into the model, do I have to pay everybody on the internet for that? Because I'm not taking those words and sort of mishmatching them up. I'm looking for patterns, and I'm trying to, algorithmically. And my understanding is there is no actual connection between what the song they trained on and what they're creating, because the AI is actually creating the song. Now I'm creating the lyrics, and actually from a copyright perspective, the Copyright Office says it depends on how much a human was involved. So, yeah, Kinga, I haven't done your song yet, so maybe I'll do one for you. But she's talking about stalking. It's going to be a challenge. I don't see a clear answer to that because, like I said, it's not. I mean, back in people were trying to say, well, this is like, I'm trying to remember the pirating software. It's escaping Napster, and I'm like, nah, it's not Napster, because Napster was actually taking that song and just making it available to everybody. That is pretty clear. That's a violation of copyright, and so that's not even close. That's not what they're doing. They're basically saying, well, we ripped some songs, the song itself, then trained the model, and then the model is recreating something completely different. So it's not anywhere near Napster. But the question becomes, is it fair use? And that's, like I said, that's a question for the courts.
Fantastic. I know there's a lot of people who are just waiting for the outcome of those decisions before they move forward. I know our friend Keith is one of those who stand behind the waiting, and will then decide how he wants to use it. And I'm sure there's others like it. Listen, I think if I were to resurrect my musical profession, and I say this anecdotally, I wanted to play an instrument growing up. Mm-hmm. I didn't know which one. And I thought I'd try the saxophone. Now, it was just noise, to be honest with you. And my passion for learning music and creating music, that kind of fizzled fast. It got to the point where I took the readout and I was just blowing air and pretending to play music because everyone else was drowning me out. And I was fooling no one but myself. But now with Suno, if I can come up with the lyrics and wanted to make it a jazzy kind of vibe, we can insert sax stems and have the sax play to my lyrics.
Absolutely.
Right?
Now, and this is where it gets a little muddy, right? Because we already have studio apps that allow you to have a drum beat. So what's the difference between that and having AI do it?
Well, I'm not going to. Anyway. I know what you're saying, and I don't think I can rebuttal or discuss it because I just don't know enough about chord progressions and music theory and all of that to back up what I'm about to say. But I think the premise, the fundamental question is, hey, that's my chord progression, and you're stealing.
And if you saw the Ed Sheeran thing where he got accused of stealing someone else's chord progression, and then he basically showed that all pop songs have the same 4 chords, not necessarily in exactly the same way, but it was actually kind of interesting. So anyway, again, I'm going to have to leave that to the lawyers. My only response to that, Americo, is if there's going to be someone that the music industry or whatever accepts as being a kind of an approved, from a training standpoint, and that they won't, like I said, this is going to come out one way or another. Suno may have to pay, billions of dollars or whatever the case is. It may take them off the playing table. I will just, from my perspective, I'll just shift to whoever, in essence, is able to do that, from a legal perspective after all of this plays out. And there are people that are doing that.
So here's another interesting piece that I want to share. When it comes to this music that we're creating through AI with tools like Suno, I have not received any strikes on my YouTube channel. So it's not picking up my music as someone else's. So I find that interesting because YouTube has some pretty advanced tech that will shut you down pretty quickly and give you a violation or a strike of some sort.
Well, my understanding, Americo, is if they feel that you are, in essence, mass producing, this is what I understand their current position to be. If you are, in essence, sort of mass producing AI, and it doesn't matter whether it's video or music or whatever, they will potentially strike you because it would be sort of like flooding the same type of music, maybe. And if it's close enough to, for instance, the Beatles song. Now, I'm not going to say that I've gotten anywhere near it, but I've attempted to try to make something sound like the Beatles, and it won't. I don't know if Suno has blocked that or it just can't do it. But I actually wrote a song about Freddie Mercury, and I tried to make it sound like, I think it was We Are the Champions. And it doesn't sound anything like it. So I think Keith has said that he was able to do something that sounds similar, but to another song he enjoyed. But I am not even trying to do that. So, I don't think I'm going to be in danger from that perspective. And the question is, it's actually a good question. And that's one of the reasons I'm still going to do it, but I'm going to shift if needed, is if the question becomes, well, Mike produced a song with Suno and Suno is no longer viable, what happens to the songs that Mike produced while it was viable? So, again, that's up to the courts to decide. And if I have to, withdraw them, I'll withdraw them. But I think this is probably going to be in the courts for a while. And my understanding actually is that unfortunately, these things tend to take quite a period of time to settle. So we'll see.
So in the meantime, it's business as usual. I applaud you and others like you who are putting some fantastic pieces of music together. I guess the more music theory that's in you, the better you're going to, pump out some great pieces of music. I went in there, I put in some lyrics and let Suno kind of mass produce a list of options for me to choose from. And I'll be the first to say garbage compared to what you're putting out. So kudos to you.
Thank you. I will say, so this is a challenge too, because, like tempo makes a difference, key makes a difference, and they're all sort of, and then genre. I mean, I'm not sticking to any one genre. I'm doing R&B, I'm doing country, I'm doing some genres I've never heard of. I recently did something called psychedelic rock, and it's not a traditional song in that it doesn't have verses and choruses. And it sounds a little bit like you might imagine it would if you were on certain chemicals. So I'm doing a bunch of experimenting with things that I'm not aware of that are being done elsewhere. And actually, I did want to mention this just as an aside. I've actually had what Bob Ross used to call happy little accidents. And what I mean by that is that between me and AI, typically, and this is throughout all of my AI experience, I will be trying to produce something like an image, and it never quite gets there. But sometimes, every once in a while, it creates something that I didn't intend. Well, that's happening some, not a lot. I'm kind of trying to wrestle down to your point in the prompting in what's called the style prompt. I'm continuing to learn. Number one, they keep on changing the model or the engine behind this, so you have to sort of relearn how to do that. But I'm doing that while I'm playing with all of these other uh, attributes that, to your point, like key, like tempo, like whether it's soft or louder, or whether the vocals are a gravelly or female. I this kind of blew me away, and just personally, I find that when I hear a female sing, it can be the exact same words, basically the same music, and when I hear a male and a female sing, I get a completely different feel. So I think that's interesting, and I do that with certain songs where I want to evoke maybe, a different feeling. Where rock, I sort of tend towards more male. Gospel, I tend to do both, because that's kind of what gospel does. And then I do a mix of all of them, and that's a bit of a challenge, to be honest, with Suno to get it 100% right. Like, I have one that I'm trying to make it sound like voicemail. I haven't figured to be able to do that out yet. It's kind of like a love. It's like, believe it or not, it's a love song. But anyway, I digress.
All right. Well, I have a question that is just timed perfectly. But before we do that, why don't we welcome Jay to the stage? Jay, I hope you weren't waiting long. I know you were running late, but welcome. Welcome to the show. Maybe we got time for a poetry slam.
Well, thank you. Man, I appreciate it. Yeah, I was waiting in the wings, but uh, good thing because I was able to hear the interview, and it was really good. The information that you have, and I've actually, it was actually through you, Americo, and through one of Keith's shows that I even learned about Suno, and I resurrected one of my pieces and turned it into a song. And it's a chant in my language, but translated into English. What's funny is I wanted to use some of my indigenous language in the song, and the only way I was able to get AI to do it was to spell words phonetically so that AI could pronounce it properly. And it wasn't exactly 100%, but it was close. And but I think there's still um, a lot to go. There's that opportunity because I paid for the full version, right? There's an opportunity to remix it so that you get out all the imperfections. Let me just tell you, there's still imperfections. you know, so I think there's still a long way to go when it comes to how Suno was doing this, and all court proceedings aside, I think there's still some progression that needs to happen technology wise to be able to not get that synthetic sound. There's some things that you could do in the prompt to help fix that, but ultimately, if you have a good ear, you can pick it out. And I think, Michael, I think you're getting really good at it. You've got the ear now, and you're helping to kind of be the AI filter for AI.
Yeah, Suno has a remaster. I don't know if it does quite what you're looking for. I have actually remastered outside of Suno as well. So I do agree with you, though, that there, yeah, I mean, I all say we're in early days, and regardless of what comes out of these lawsuits, AI generally is here to stay. I think AI. I mean, artists. You know, modern artists today are actually already using Suno and other AI to do their stuff. So what they'll do, for instance, is let's say they play, or maybe they're just vocalists, and they need they need the music. Well, they'll lay down their vocals, and then they'll bring it up to Suno and mix in whatever they feel is what they need, and maybe even bring it outside of Suno again, and bring it into their studio software. And I can't remember who some of these bigger name artists are, but there's already some bigger name artists that are doing this already. So this isn't quite as simple as it may sound, because, like I said, Suno just came out with something called Studio, which you have to pay the next tier, which I don't have, to get, and that is a studio application that you download to your PC, and do what I'm talking about on your PC, just like you would any other studio application. So
Well, one of the sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
Well, so I was trying to explain to America, it's not quite as simple as it sounds, because I look at synths, and I look at MIDI, and I look at already the studio stuff. Like, there's a kid, I don't know if you've seen him on either TikTok, and he just creates, it's incredible. But he has studio software, he plays keyboards and stuff, but he's using the machine to create these incredible scores, and I don't know if he sings or not. But my point is, so what's the difference between that that he already has these tracks that he either is paying for or getting, or I don't know where he gets the tracks, but he puts all the stuff together, makes us the changes to the pitch and everything. So I mean, is he's doing what AI is doing to some degree, but he's already has all of those instruments in the software. So it's a progression to me, and I think it's inevitable, actually, and sort of Pandora's box. It's open now, and we'll have to figure out where this goes. But I'm along for the ride.
Yeah, if you don't mind, America, I want to kind of follow up. One of the big names is Timbaland, and he's a big producer. He was his own. He was also an artist. He still is an artist, but now he's an artist in the studio. He did Missy Elliott's songs and stuff. He's the guy that would take sounds in nature and embed it into hip hop and R&B songs, right? And he got that from way back. I think it was, I don't know if it was the Crickets. I think it was the name of the 50s or 40s band. They were called the Crickets because when they were recording in their garage, there was a cricket in the background. Right, there was a cricket in the back, and it became part of the song. And so that helped. I don't know if that's Hollywood lore, but I remember seeing that as a kid, and then was reminded of it when they were interviewing Timbaland. Now, Timbaland's a big guy. He's a big name in hip hop and R&B. And what you're talking about is these young hip hop, sometimes these young hip hop artists who already have beats that were created by other people, right? And they used full on studio equipment, and then they sold it online. You could go online right now and get all kinds of music, right? No lyrics, no vocals, just music. And then you could actually, because they're studio made, you can pick out each individual instrument if you just have the right tools, the right programs. And so I have a friend of mine who's a hip hop artist, and that's what he did. And to make ends meet, he sold music or beats, what they call beats, online. And he was able to make money to pay his rent that way. So, you're right. It's this progression. And as a matter of fact, Timbaland is one of those guys who is promoting Suno. So he's a big name and he's a studio producer, right? With the traditional studio producer. This is the guy who actually has studio equipment. I mean, we're talking 18 channels of music going at one time and him producing each channel. So,
Well, and I know, Jay, before you got here, I was talking about musicians that are ideating on Suno, right? So they're working with AI to come up with ideas. Then they go back into the studio and actually create via what you just said, with studio equipment, the song that they just ideated. So, who gets credit for that? Obviously, I think the musician should if they're creating it, but they use Suno to ideate the ideas, like, whether it's a beat or, the could even be vocals, I don't know. And they, like, let's say you get a track, in your head, and you just produce it, your vocals, something I haven't been ready to do. I've done, vocals in the past. I used to basically do, contemporary Christian music. So, I had the backup music and I did the vocals for. Not quite ready to do that, but we'll see. But you can definitely do that in Suno.
All right, so let's put Suno aside and let's put both of you on the spotlight. You both love poetry. You both have this artistic talent that someone like myself can't keep up with or compete. So here's a question for both of you. In terms of your creative side, what does your creative process look like? Do you write in spurts, or do you have a routine when it comes to whether it's music, poetry, writing in general? What works for you?
yeah, I guess I'll go first. um, so, I, where I get my, I guess, inspiration from, I go back to when I was 19 and a cub reporter in the newsroom with frenetic chaos, right? And trying to meet a deadline. And I guess I've been trying to recreate that chaos. Um, and just and I hate to use the words word vomit, but I have thoughts in my brain that get jumbled around, and at the opportune time, I put pen to paper or I type away. And a lot of people would kind of ask me to, can you recite that again? Or I can't. I really can't. Because once it comes out, I've let, I've let, I've let the cat out of the bag. I've, opened Pandora's box. I can't stuff that stuff back in. So it's controlled chaos for me. I have spurts of inspiration, I guess, stuff that I've been thinking about. And when I get the right, I guess, theme in my head, it then comes out into a piece. Um, yeah. So right now, if you saw what was in my head, you would go, "Is this guy crazy?" So anyway, it must be different for everybody else. I guarantee.
Well, I'm going to answer that, Americo, in the form of a poem, and then I'll answer it more fully. The poem's called "What Is It to Be a Poet?" Why do we share our innermost thoughts? To be vulnerable, I wonder if we ought. What is our need to dive deep into the heart? And is it narcissistic musing? Or is it art? When taking pen to paper or dumping brain to screen, how do we express the world of in between? We who are called to write should consider it our duty to take our hard won struggle and turn it into beauty. So that's a bit of my process is, for instance, I mean, like Jay had a birthday, and Noni was celebrating Jay's birthday. So part of what I was doing for a while before she stopped doing it was she would kind of tell you a little bit ahead of time what the what the theme for that night was going to be. So I was actually using that as a prompt. That's a little harder for me because I'm a little more like Jay in that I tend to produce. Now I write the stuff down, and then when I'm writing music, I'm normally I will do one version of the song, and I normally do some amount of lyric rewrites because either it doesn't sound right with the music or something just doesn't come out right. So I do some amount of rewriting of the lyrics. When I do poems, I do kind of the same thing. I kind of read through, and particularly if I do, spoken word, and I'll see, well, it doesn't sound quite right, then I'll rewrite that. So, but a lot of my poetry and songwriting is coming from an inspiration. Lately, it's been, like people I'm meeting on LinkedIn or whatever, LinkedIn Lives. Like I did a song for my wife and I's 11th anniversary. I had a sister-in-law pass, and I wrote a song for that. I had my best friend, my best childhood friend pass. I wrote a song about that. So some amount of it is just what I'm experiencing in my life, and that inspires me to write. I can't really. I don't know if I could do that just by having. And my wife has actually suggested this is, Mike, rather than staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning working on a song, why don't you just set aside 2 hours? I'm like, that's not really kind of how it works for me. But because once I start on a song or whatever, and I'm working through the music or the lyrics or the tempo or whatever it is, I'm kind of in that moment. So that's sort of my process.
All right. So I'm glad you made reference to the 1 o'clock in the morning, because I was going to ask, is it just me, or is it that 3 a.m. burst of whatever it might be, dopamine ideas, neurons just running and racing through your head? But why does it always happen in the middle of the night? And when it happens, you just can't shut down because you're so inspired to write and put your thoughts pen to paper or, to the keyboard. But why does it always happen in moments that you're trying to kind of just shut down and get some rest?
I know why for me, because everybody else is doing that, right? And so that leaves me to my own devices, literally, right? So I've got my computer, I've got my phone, and it's silent in the house, right? I can actually turn off the TV. I could, not have to worry about, did I leave the toilet seat up? Do I need to go wash the dishes before my wife sees it? Do I need to go wipe down the counters? Things like that, right? Now I can worry about, hey, that song I was thinking about earlier, do I need to finish that? Does it need to have a crescendo in the middle, or do I do it at the end? And so all of those thoughts come rushing in at a point where there's no distraction. And so for me, that's why the 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, man, and before you know it, the sun, right? So that's what happens to me. And then when I do go to work, I'm in nature, And so now, now I'm by myself again, and it's like, ooh, let me think about writing something. And so those are the times I think where if you're left to yourself, you're meditating, or you don't have the distractions of daily life. I think that's where a lot of creativity comes seeping out.
I'm going to key off of what Jay just said, and I think there is probably something for those of us that are day dwellers, that we are in between our conscious and our subconscious. And I think a lot of creativity probably comes out of our subconscious. So when we're tired and when we're entering, we're not in REM, but I think we've let go of these frenetic things that are going on during the daytime, and that our brains can maybe tap into something deeper, something different, something calmer. But part of the challenge, America, that I run into is that I will start, for instance, maybe after dinner or something. And so at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm still working on what I started at like 8 or 9 o'clock. So because back to what Jay was saying, I get in that groove, and now on occasion I have written like a lyric or a poem and just left it sort of to the side, knowing that I don't want to be up till 4 o'clock in the morning, working on that. So, but I'm the type of guy, I'm kind of, I get in that mode, I get in that groove. And so I need to chase it down until at least that song is done. But I think I've mentioned I'm doing multiple versions of all of these tracks. So I do it in one genre, do another genre, change lyrics, particularly if I'm making major changes to the genre, like if I'm going to hip hop to country, sometimes I'll actually change the lyrics. I don't do that often, but sometimes. So it really depends on, but I would say I believe probably there's something that happens when we're allowed to or when we relax ourselves away from those daily cares, that maybe gets our juices flowing.
Awesome. All right. I know we've passed the hour, but we're having such a great conversation. Are we good for time? Can we continue?
I'm good for as long as you need me.
All right. Well, we'll start to wrap it up, but there's a few things that I want you to share with our listening audience. For those who are inspired by the stories that we bring to this stage, I'd love to hear from you what you've learned about yourself through this journey. So you have fabulous career in tech. You have this passion for poetry and music, which was once perhaps just a passion, and it's now flourishing into more than a passion, probably an enterprise of some sort at some point. I'd love to hear a little bit about what you learned about yourself throughout this journey.
This is going to go a little deep. And what I've learned is to stop selling myself short. And what I mean by that is, believe it or not, even in my professional career, sometimes I feel that it's not true imposter syndrome, but sometimes when you're trying to, push a program or, to develop something and it doesn't quite land the way you would like, you can get frustrated. And over time, that can actually start to maybe develop into a little bit of an imposter syndrome, or that something is missing. And when I had run into the situation where I sort of, and Jay, you missed it, where I had shared some poetry at work that fell kind of flat. Needless to say, I didn't really share a lot of poetry at work after that. So one of the things I've learned is to kind of grow thicker skin a little bit and then the biggest thing for me is to adopt a mindset of abundance versus scarcity. What do I mean by that? I believe that you can call it the universe, you can call it manifestation, call it whatever you want, but I believe that often that maybe we are not pursuing things that we have gifts in, or that that we're not exercising those skills maybe that we could. And it's not always for money, by the way, or it could be for all sorts of things. It's just be for the pure joy of it. But I think maybe we're cheating ourselves. So that's what I've learned is, get out of my comfort zone. And it's not just professional. It's in this space too of creativity is just do it. Get out, do it. What's the worst that can happen? Type of thing. And I've enjoyed people enjoying the music, and if that's all that happens, that's awesome. But I think it's really a mindset change for me is like I said in the poem, do we have a kind of a mandate to take our hard-won struggle and turn it into beauty? And share that with other people, because I don't know, I'm just passionate about trying to uplift other people, and and I think this is certainly a way to do that.
Man, I agree. I just got done watching a whole bunch of things that would inspire people to do better, grow, become a better human being, become a better businessman, that type of thing. And it one of the things that keeps coming up periodically is, if you have haters, you're doing something right. It's because you're getting acclaim, and sometimes people don't like that. People see success, and because they're not successful, they're going to hate on you. And so push past that, do what you can do, continue to do what you're doing. And if you enjoy it, take it to the next level, right? And I think the enjoying part is really going to be the thing that's going to push you past those haters. I'm going to give you a really prime example. So I started writing poetry in my own language as a chanter. And chanting is a resurrected phenomenon in my culture. My language is one of the languages that are going extinct across the globe, right? Indigenous languages, they're all dying, right? And so what are we trying to do to keep my language alive? And so we have to go back to ancient sources and things to figure those things out. Anyway, long story short, there was a person who was a chanting practitioner, and he taught groups of people, his own group, how to do this. Well, one day he knows that I'm doing a theatrical performance. Like, I was part of a theater group and we did a play. Anyway, he meets me in a public space, and I think I know why, because he thought I might have killed him for even asking this question. But because I was acting, he wanted to know if resurrecting the language, using the language, and chanting sacred chants was an act. And I guess he was right to have it in a public space at a bar and grill, because I really wanted to choke him, because I thought it was really sacred to me, right? But because I was impacting people making change and really having people listen to my poetry and my chants, he felt offended. He felt, I'm the one who's supposed to be doing this. I'm the one who should be out here, right? But here's this other guy who's coming out of nowhere, left field, and he's muscling in on something that I think is supposed to be sacred, and he's acting. Well, see, if you're making an impact in somebody's life, sometimes other people can't see that you're doing this for not for just because you want to, just because you do want to make that impact, not because you're doing it for nefarious reasons, right? And I think he was just trying to say that I was doing it for fame and fortune, and I wasn't. I still am not trying to do that. And I think if you have people out there who want to share their art and want to make an impact and want to positively impact this world, you're going to see them really do it. And I'm going to say, damn the haters.
Yeah, I've put it a different way, Jay. I said if you're getting flack, you're probably over the target.
Absolutely.
But but
Absolutely.
but but I do I think off. I mean, I don't try to. Well, as part of my generative discussion efforts, I do try to see if I can at least empathize with the other person. But then I also say that there is, if you're doing it to your point, if you're doing it with the best of intentions and a pure heart and blah blah blah, and that's not blah 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 in a bad way, um, then you're secure. And I guess that's the other thing is when someone's coming at you and you're secure in what you're doing, you're and I I don't know if you've seen The Rock, but he goes, "What's the rumpus?" That's to me is like I keep on asking myself, so what's the rumpus here? Why are you coming at me like this? And I'm gonna like I do a quick sort of sanity check to say, was I really off and I just misread or something or missed the whole point? But generally, I think first of all, I think we believe generally that we are I think most of us anyway aren't going around trying to spread hate or division. Some people are, but so generally, I think we're thinking, I'm doing this for a good cause, or I have all good intent, and so you have to wonder like, why are they coming at me now? What I tend to do is, I'm like, I will normally try to listen, see if there's anything that I need to adjust. And like I said, sometimes I misread the room. So like when I first shared my poetry, that was just it wasn't that it was a bad idea to share poetry. It was just the wrong time, wrong place. So I think it's probably one of the things I learned about myself is read your audience. read the read the room, read the audience. But at the same time, I think with poetry and particularly with songs that you're trying to share, and I can't remember if I brought this up in the beginning, but I think often, like when we're creating, I don't know if you've run into this, Jay, but when we're creating, maybe even telling a story, but I think probably less so in a story, when we're creating, because of our lived experiences, particularly with my poetry, I'm meaning a certain thing, and I use words, that try to get that message across. Someone else might not read it the same way, and I think that's where poetry differs a little bit with songs, because songs are kind of guiding your emotions a little more. But I've had people, or I've done paintings and stuff, and they're looking at that painting, they're like they have their own interpretation of the painting. I'm like, well, that's not what I was thinking when I painted it. Or when I wrote a song, or when I wrote a poem, I'm like, that's not quite what I meant. But sometimes beauty or difficulty is in the eye of the beholder. So
Yeah, I think that's the difference in written poetry and reciting poetry and songs, I will tell you that in a poetry slam, oh man, it's different, right? If you're reciting a poem in a library versus doing a poetry slam, completely different,
Mm,
right? And it's context and the emotion from the creator.
yep.
When you're in a poetry slam, you want the crowd to give you feedback. That's how you know you hit the mark. The other thing is that's how the judges know you hit the mark. So that feedback, the roar, the claps, the snaps, whatever it is, the reactions, that's what tells you did your job in that emoting. And so that was one of the things that really stood out to me. And in songs, so I wrote a song recently for the nature center that I'm working with, and I wrote a theme song in honor of our founder, and he's passed, and he's passed since 2008. When I saw the founder's spouse, who's still living, tear up from it, I knew I hit the mark, right? And and it's crazy because the song, the lyrics I came up with, my friend, he sung it. He used he had these beats that were country beats in the background that have been around for a long time, and he just kind of put it together, and then I put it through Suno. And so and it just happened just recently. And so this is what I'm saying. And I said, my friend told me, he was like, hey, whatever you do, don't put this on the radio. You can use it for your theme song or advertising. Or whatever. I do not want this to become, a country pop song because I like to be in the background. I make beats. I get people in the studio. So I was like, okay. And I can share this music with you guys later, but what I want to say is that these are the things that are happening right now. What you were talking about earlier, he said, if you want to, you can have somebody actually go into the studio and record this, but don't use my vocals. So, but it just told me when you see the person react, when you feel that they feel the emotions, then you've done your job in creating that art piece.
Beautiful. And sometimes art comes in different formats. And I could tell you, I'm going to try to create art by repurposing this show. At the 1 hour and 2 minute mark, Mike recited one of his poems, which I think needs to be shared. So stay tuned, Mike. We'll feature you and your poetry. This has been a great conversation. And we may have already answered this question, but I'm going to bring it up in case there's anything else we want to add here. The question is really seeking advice that we can give others who feel torn. And today, there's probably more people who feel torn than ever before between careers, the loss of their careers, and their creative calling. What advice can we give? And I know, and I heard some of it being touched on, but is there anything that we left out?
This one, I'm going to just go all in and say follow your passion. Because, how do I put this? What you get paid for is not necessarily what you're passionate about. It's great if it can be, but maybe you have what I call, a a revenue stream that, I mean, you go to do the 9 to 5. Also, by the way, I feel that some of that is a mindset of scarcity versus a mindset of abundance. But that may take a number of years to develop. So maybe you do both. Maybe you do, something that you're working on to have a revenue stream, and have some sort of security, although that doesn't exist as much as it used to. And then do things either on the weekend or whenever you can fit it in. And I think some of the opportunities, like with Suno, or one of the things that I haven't done yet, but I'm planning to, is actually stream my not the ones that are more related to businesses, but just the tracks that I've created, sort of on on my own subjects. Those I do want to stream, and those I'm going to be using something called Disco Kid, and so that sends to like 150 different platforms. That's probably not going to necessarily be a revenue stream for me, but you never know. The other one I'm going to be using is something called Bandcamp, and that's when you they take, I think, 30% off the top, but you actually sell your tracks. So it's kind of equivalent to like Apple Music or whatever. And if I sense that this is going somewhere, maybe I'll start doing some of these other platforms. But those are the two that I'm going to be looking at. And I would just encourage people, follow your passion. And I think when you're doing your passion, if it can't be your day job, so to speak, follow it and see where it goes. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, isn't one of the popular or famous proverbs, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now.
Is now. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm going to say that I'm going to agree with that 100%. Like I said, this is something that I mean, some of it is the technology, but I would say a bigger part is just me stepping out of my comfort zone. And I think that in general, as a solopreneur or an entrepreneur, you have to step out of your comfort zone and just go do it.
Jay, you're immersed at a nature center. You have, for what some people would say, the best of both worlds. You get paid to hang out where most people pay to go camp out.
That's right. If you want to. See, I actually have the best of both worlds by being in the office, right? I do administrative stuff, operation stuff. But if I need to take a break, man, I can be in the woods in a matter of a couple of minutes, seconds, even if I ran fast enough. But anyway, it's where you are in life, I think, is where you should be. And it sounds kind of odd, but look at it this way. It's exactly what you were saying, right? Seize the day. Now's the time. Doesn't matter where you are in your life, it doesn't matter where you are physically. If you have a passion for something, do it. And I agree totally with what both of you were saying, but for me, I think what the next step in that is consistency. There's so many things that I probably could have done with my poetry over the course of several years, and I'm going to do it in 2026 and make a compilation, make a series, these types of things, right? My advice is be consistent. If you want to pursue something in poetry, if you want to be a storyteller, if you want to write that book, it starts, yes, with the first step, but you got to keep going. Take the next step, take the next step, take the next step. And when you're done taking that step, take another one, right? Keep going. And then before you know it, you'll have an entire book. You'll have an entire series. You'll have that first actually pressed album. I don't think they do that anymore. But I'm saying you'll have that first song that you'll be able to put out there. Don't give up. Keep doing it. Make it consistent. And before you know it, maybe you'll even be able to make money doing the thing you love the most.
Beautiful. All right. It has been an absolute pleasure. Michael, our stage is always yours to share. Now's a little bit of a lightning round. We're going to take this home. 3 quick questions, and then we'll wrap things up. Your favorite cybersecurity buzzword?
Well, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say vulnerability.
All right. Favorite line from one of your poems?
I would say it's probably from the one I just read, which is it narcissistic musing or is it art?
And one song that always gets you in the zone?
Ooh. Probably Imagine from the Beatles.
Wonderful. Once again, I want to thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure having you as guest speak on the storytelling journey. I love doing these shows. I love demonstrating how easy it is to not overthink about going live. For some of us, stepping behind the camera or stepping in front of the camera is a difficult step. But today we demonstrate, and I continue to demonstrate in different variations. Today we produced an audio event. We were multi-streaming. I thought I had all channels queued up. Turns out that Substack did not go live, but we'll get the replay into our Substack so that that community can enjoy today's conversation. Jay, I hope I didn't leave you backstage too long. I know that by the time I noticed it, didn't realize how long it could have been. But always a pleasure having you join and being a co-host in what is a subject matter that is not only a passion, but it is a profession. And I know you got a few things on the go where you're helping, you're building a community. How's that coming along around that storytelling? You touched on this, our last episode. Any progress? Anything you'd like to share?
So probably by January, I'm going to have an app that's going to help people tell their story. And it's going to point back to my book, Rules of Engagement in Storytelling. So each chapter, AI is going to help you get to where you need to be when you want to tell your story.
Oh, our friend Kenneth loves this format. The show is over when the show is over, not a time limit per se. Listen, we've all been parts of shows that go on for hours. I try to the best of my ability to respect everyone's time. But when you're having such a great conversation, it's hard to pull the plug on what is a great conversation. And today was exactly that. It was a great conversation. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for those who joined us live. Thanks for those who will be listening to us on replay, on demand. This will be available on YouTube, Substack, as well as LinkedIn. I'm going to shut things down, close the room, and I think we're going to close this off once again with another, I was going to say another song. It's going to be the same song, but we opened it up, and we're going to close it off with Michael's song. So thank you, Michael. This one's for you.
Thank you.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. and tension soar. The board support becomes our shield. Never backing down, never gonna yield. In this ever-changing threat landscape, independence and teamwork keeps us safe. Stand your ground with fire in your eyes, independent, but we're unified with the board behind us and the business on our side. We defend this enterprise day and night. Right.